Hey everyone, today I'm joined by Jonathan Stark. Jonathan is an author, speaker, and consultant who has spent over 20 years helping agencies and consultants escape the trap of hourly billing. He hosts the Ditching Hourly podcast, has published over 500 episodes on the subject, and runs the Ditcherville community. I wanted to have Jonathan on because pricing is probably one of the most underlevered moves in any agency owner's toolkit. Most people know that hourly billing isn't ideal, but very few know how to actually make the switch without panicking, I guess. In this episode, we discuss why fixed price quotes feel risky and how to price them correctly, the real source of scope creep in value priced engagements, the first productized service every agency should build, and more. No one was asking for another community, but I've made one anyway. So what's different? The dynamic agency community is designed around access rather than content. Access to peers who've done it before, access to experts who've designed solutions, access to resources that have been battle tested. And right now, the price for founding members is only $97 a year. Join today so your agency has immediate access to everything you need to grow. You can join at dynamicagency.community. And now, Jonathan Stark. It's easier than ever to start an agency, but it's only getting harder to stand out and keep it alive. Join me as we explore the strategies agencies are using today to secure a better tomorrow. This is Agency Forward. What do you say to the agency owner that's terrified to quote a fixed price?
Yeah, I'd say I understand. That is scary. You've probably tried it before and got killed. Felt like you lost money on it, and you would have made a lot more money if you were billing by the hour. Mm-hmm. I had the same experience back in 2003, 4, 5, around there. I was managing a dev shop, and we had about 10 developers. We did FileMaker development. There were some other, admin-based employees, and we billed everybody out at $150 an hour. And every once in a while, the boss would, do a fixed price quote for somebody, and it just never went well. It was like we ended up making felt like $75 an hour from it. It's just like, oh wow, we're never going to do that again. Right. So I totally get it. You don't want to lose money. You got to pay salaries. You got to make payroll. The problem is that, or one of the problems is that if you're billing by the hour, you're not really taking any risk. So you don't really get any reward. So there is some risk to giving fixed prices. I think the real unlock for people is understanding or learning a better way to calculate a fixed price than just estimating how many hours you think it's going to take, multiplying it by your hourly rate, and then tacking on some, padding like 15% for admin or something like that. So if you do it like that, then you're automatically going to end up getting killed on any decent sized project, because you can't uncover all of the scope in, a 1 hour sales meeting, or even maybe a couple of meetings. And you don't want to have a ton of meetings to uncover scope, or you're not even getting paid and don't know if you're going to land the project. So you don't want to put in a ton of time to uncover scope up front. So you don't have all the scope, and you end up miscalculating the hours, probably a lot fewer than you should. And you don't account for the inevitable changes. There's going to be changes. There are going to be surprises. It happens on every project. So why not factor that in at the beginning? So you end up putting a way too low of a multiplier on it. And there's another way to do it that I think is far superior, which is value-based pricing. And with value-based pricing, you don't start with the hours at all. You work backwards from what the outcome is worth to the client. Then you set a price, and then you decide what you're going to do for that amount of money. And, I could literally talk the entire episode about this, so I'll stop there. But they're scared because they think they're going to get killed, and they are going to get killed because they're calculating the price backwards. They're calculating the price wrong.
Mm-hmm. All right. I got so many different ways that we can get into this. First, I love the risk reward concept for why you should go to set pricing instead of hourly. Because I don't know that I've ever heard someone explain it like that, where it's if you don't take on the risk of knowing that you might miscalculate this and you actually have to put a little on. But if you did everything right, you put in the work ahead of time, it's like this could be the best thing for your agency.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess if I was looking at this and saying, okay, well then knowing that fact, why won't more agencies do it? I think it comes down to like an operations issue, right? Where they just they don't trust themselves to know that they can deliver something in a certain amount of time. I guess, is that where you're seeing the blocker, or is there something else that contributes to that?
That's definitely part of it. I think the part that's the most mysterious for people is how to figure out what it's worth to the client in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a conversation you need to have in the sales interview that I call the why conversation, but it's basically 3 questions that I originally read about in a book by Alan Weiss.
Yep.
That, you ask why, the client comes to you and they say, hey, we heard great stuff from Alice. She said you did a great job on our website or whatever. And we'd like to talk, about working together. What's your hourly rate? And be like, well, we don't have an hourly rate, but would it be okay if we give you a fixed price for the project? Oh yeah, that'd be great. It'd be good to know upfront how much it's going to cost and not find out when it's way too late. So in that meeting, you sit down, you ask them, why do you want to do this? Why do you need to do it now? And why would you hire someone expensive like me when there's all of these other options or all these other ways that you could do it? You could put it off for 18 months or all these reasons that you essentially try and talk them out of hiring you. You talk them out of doing the project at all and see what they say back. Mm-hmm. And almost invariably, they have waited too long to call you. They've tried a million other things and it didn't work. And they have tried to do it on their own or with some team in Bangalore and it hasn't panned out. And now they're like behind the 8 ball and they really need to pony up and get somebody who really knows what they're doing. So they're going to say, yeah, we have to do this for reasons 1, 2, and 3. And we have to do it now because the window of opportunity is closing or Amazon's coming to our market or some fear. And then they'll explain why they want to do it with you, why they're talking to you at all. And there's a reason or they wouldn't be talking to you. You just need to find out what it is. So once you have all of those things, then you can basically do a cold read on them and say, okay, so let me get this straight. You have 500 employees. You're trying to, you tell me what's something like a typical agency owner would be doing for these folks, like performance marketing, website development. So,
yeah, we could do a web shop.
So web shop. Yeah. So, you want to build this, you need this customer portal. You've got big clients like Home Depot and you're afraid that they're going to start going to your competitors because they have a better online experience for self-serving their projects and invoices and all this stuff. Okay. We can definitely do that for you. And for a company that size, you can start, and probably they've already started to give you some numbers. You can start to figure out some numbers about, well, how big of an account is Home Depot and how many Home Depots do you have? And is this really a big deal? And they would have already convinced you and themselves that it is a big deal. They have to do it now and they need to hire someone good because they have to stop fooling around with this cheaper options. So let's say that's worth $100,000 to them. And at that point, you can say, all right, I usually give 3 prices. I don't give just one price. Mm-hmm. I don't want to give them an ultimatum. I'd like to give them different ways to work together. So I'll say, all right, this is probably worth $100,000 to the business in the first year alone. And I can do something for $10,000. I can do something for $22,000 and I can do something for $50,000 in order to move the needle on the thing that you want to get done. So they probably asked you for something very specific, a punch list of features or something like that initially, and that's fine. And you can take that information down. But for me, when they're giving me scope in the sales meeting, what I'm using that information to drill in deeper and find out what the real business outcome is that they're looking for. Mm-hmm. So if I say, what would a home run look like for you if this project went perfectly and you just were so happy about the outcome that you wanted to build a statue of me outside of your building, what would that look like? And good clients will sit back and go, oh, it would be like this. And they'd say, we'd launch the thing. Home Depot would be raving about it. Our salespeople would be bragging about it. We'd be bringing in more clients and all of these sorts of things. Business outcomes, not features. Mm-hmm. So like stuff that is going to make or save them money. All right, great. At that point, I can say, for $10,000, this isn't what you asked for, but it is going to move the needle on that thing. And I would just decide, like, I'll scope last. What would I do for $10,000 that I would be super happy to do for $10,000? probably something I could do in a weekend or maybe less than a week, and say like, here you go. This moved the needle. This is going to make Home Depot a little bit happier. And then at 22,000, I, something on top of that would be even more likely to move the needle. And then for 50,000, something that's even more likely to move the needle. And those options are a fraction of what it's worth to them. Right. They've already given you all these reasons why they have to do it now with you or someone like you. So if you have all that information from the sales interview, the proposal practically writes itself. It's like Mad Libs. You just fill in what they said, and then the only real thinking you have to do is like, what am I going to do for each one of these options? Mm-hmm. And it's kind of a no-brainer. If you uncover it all properly from them and you get numbers, then it's kind of a no-brainer for them to say yes. They're going to pick one option. You can negotiate, which option. You can negotiate payment terms. I don't negotiate price, but anyway, I feel like I could talk about this nonstop. So you have to interrupt me if you want.
No, if you have questions. This is awesome. Okay. So let's get into the value-based pricing around, like, we'll keep using this example.
Okay.
So I guess one of my concerns for value-based pricing would be the more agencies try to productize, the harder it then is to sell something value-based, because we're not, if that person goes and asks for referrals, right, to my clients, and they say, yeah, he did that same thing for me and it cost this, it's like, I just lost credibility in the engagement. So I feel like we have to stay somewhat bespoke in what we're doing for them. And so I think you've pointed out, like, by highlighting, like, well, what would make this the win for you? Like, what is the actual outcome that you need? Being able to tie to that, it's like, now that's going to be very different for all of these companies. And so now they can't go to someone else and say, well, what did they do for you? It's like, unless that outcome is the exact same, we're comparing apples to oranges.
Right.
And so I guess,
I'm a big fan of productizing. That's not value. It's different though. So productizing, I'm a fan of value-based pricing for project work. And a project is something that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. The client is going to be heavily involved, whether they're doing QA or they've got input about something, or they need to bring in the client to start testing. There's a lot of client involvement on a project. And there's also a success criteria, like when you've met the success criteria, Home Depot has renewed the contract or whatever, then you're done. Mm-hmm. So you've got a success metric. You probably hopefully have some progress metrics along the way, so you know that you're getting closer to the goal, and it's probably pretty big. I suppose I wouldn't. It takes a lot of effort and talent to have one of these conversations. It takes practice, I should say. It's not talent so much; it's just practice, and it's kind of not worth doing unless the project's pretty big. So, like, at least $50,000, something like that. I wouldn't be doing this for a $2,000. Whatever. But for smaller things and for cookie cutter things and for deliverable based things, website in a week, stuff like that. Yeah, go ahead, productize it. $5,000 website in a week, 5 pages, contact form, and blah 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 blah. WordPress template, you're done, and you can still be profitable there because you're still not tying your time to your money. You can you can improve your operations, make it quicker, use AI, do all sorts of things to make it take less time, increase your profitability, deliver better results faster to your clients. So productized services to me are very interesting. They're a good first step for some agencies, but you're absolutely right. If you're selling website in a week to customer after customer after customer after customer, and somebody compares notes, they're probably not going to be super happy if you charge them, an extra zero on top of what you charged the first person.
Yeah.
So yes. So if you're focusing on custom projects, are basically never the same. Like never, they're never the same. So it makes sense to have a different price for every client.
Yeah. And so I think it's more kind of credence to the idea of, like, an agency needs to go in and say, all right, for this type of project, here's our process for this is how we're going to sell it. And here's how we're pricing it, right? You're like everything, so that they're all kind of set in stone. They know what we're doing with each project. So the bespoke stuff, you can go value-based. This is how we're going to run that play.
Yep. It's a good fit. If you have productized services and someone comes to you and none of the productized services are a good fit, but you still want to take them on.
Right.
Okay. Custom project. So that immediately you're like, we don't have a off the shelf thing for you, but we can talk about what you're trying to achieve, and then give you a proposal.
Right. Yeah. And I think even for those bespoke projects, a lot of times you're able to take the productized services, use those inside that
Mm-hmm.
bespoke project, and you just add on the layers of any of the complexity that gets involved. So,
Yep.
um, yeah. So one of the things I wanted to dive into is then as we're okay, one of the challenges of doing like a fixed budget for this project or for whatever
Mm-hmm.
we're trying to do, right, is we might miscalculate
Yep.
and so like that is the risk aspect of this. What
Mm-hmm.
are what are some of the things that you recommend an agency look at in order to ensure they're getting that calculation as close as possible? It's like just maintaining the scope, not necessarily looking at the scope creep part of that and stuff, but like to make
Yeah.
sure we can do the stuff initially in the scope for
Yep.
a set price.
Well, I mean, I didn't. It doesn't really go without saying, so I'll say it. You need to be good at what you're doing, and none of this will work.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
you
probably
can't BS your way into like a great outcome. So, assuming you've got some experience
Mhm.
and you convince both yourself and the client that what they want to have you do is going to probably lead, highly likely that it's going to lead to the outcome that they want. Well, then you're pretty confident that it's going to work and that you know how a way to do it, maybe three different paths to it, but it's all stuff that you've done before. And you're like, okay, there are going to be surprises, and maybe Home Depot is not going to react very well to our first iteration or whatever, and we might have to redo it or something like that. But there are two things about this approach that protect you from basically feeling like you're losing money or feel like your margin is shrinking. The first one is you know how to satisfy them, which typically when people are scoping first, they don't actually know what's going to satisfy the client. They just have the list of things the client asked for, but those might not actually solve the problem the client thinks they're going to solve.
Mhm.
So you've never actually defined what what success looks like for the project if you're billing by the hour usually. So if you have created a value-based proposal, you have to, there's no way to do it unless knowing what their desired outcome is. So you know how to satisfy them. With that, when someone comes to you and says, "Hey, you're working on the website. I know it's that you're doing this customer portal for Home Depot, but the VP of sales was talking about our competitor's site, and they've got this carousel on the homepage, and it's wicked cool. And since you're in there anyway, can you just throw a carousel on the homepage too?" And I would say, what's the business case? So we agreed that what we want is this customer portal, and I'd say no to them. I'd say, like, if you can make a business case how this is going to make Home Depot want to stay with you, then we'll add it to the list, because that's what I want too. I want Home Depot to stay with you and renew their contract. But if they're like, well, it's just something the sales guy thought would be cool, and
Mhm.
I'd say, well, let's put it on the back burner. Once we declare victory on the Home Depot thing, then we can revisit anything that we've put on a V2 list and decide if it's going to produce any business value or if it's just a fun, cool thing that somebody saw and then, would never have moved any other needle at all.
Right. Yeah.
So so it's not, it doesn't turn into an argument. It's not like, no, I'm not going to do that because either it's beneath my professional standards or it's outside of scope. You say, no, it's not about me. It's not about you. It's about the project. And I usually tell them this in the sales meeting. I'm going to keep you, it's going to be annoying. I'm going to be so focused
Mhm.
on the result that I'm going to have blinders on about everything else. We're going to push off everything to a V2 that doesn't contribute to this goal. And we're going to be laser focused on the home run. And they love that up front. They love when you say that up front. In the project, sometimes it irritates
Yeah.
them, but they remember that you said it and they know they're
Right.
having shiny object syndrome and they've probably been distracted by things like this before.
Mhm.
And it's just going to get them to the win faster if you do that. So
Right.
that's one thing that keeps everything on track, keeps the scope from going crazy.
Yeah.
But the other thing is when you decided what you were going to do at each price, you do like something you'd be super happy to do for the price. Like for $10,000, like it feels like highway robbery. This is going to take me 2 days and it's going to be $10,000. And so it's very profitable to you, but it's also very profitable to the client because the way that you calculated the prices is just going to deliver outsized results. So both parties are doing making a mutual profit.
Right. So yeah, we used to run this. So we would always do like the 3 pricing tiers for a website project. And
Mm-hmm.
but one of the things that we would include in every every option was what we call the say yes budget, where it was just for things that like when the client has that random request and like we have a budget set aside for this. If we get to the end of the project and we don't use it, we're actually going to refund you just for like this portion of the budget.
Wow.
Never got to that because one, they're always asking for like, do you mind doing this little thing? It's like, yeah, we can do that because it has nothing to do with our core outcome, right? But like,
right.
Yeah, we can do it. A team member will knock it out, but they keep track of that budget over time because we're bringing it up every time they ask for something. So when it hits zero, it's like, hey, we can't work on that. We only can focus on like this core effort that we're trying to achieve with you, or we can invoice you for a different project and we can knock that out. But yeah,
that's what I used to do. I used to say like, if you want to start a different project, we can pause this one and I'll give you a quote for the other one. And they would every time they'd be like, yeah, no, that's not really that important.
Yeah. As soon as the money comes back in, it's like, well, but yeah. So the expectation management, I think is one of those core skills for any agency owner, anyone working in an agency is like critical to be able to manage that. Mm-hmm. What I'm getting from like the way you're describing the value-based pricing and stuff is that it forces strategic clarity so that you can do things like this. Like, because we have, in order to value-based price, we have to ask the deeper questions. And because we're asking that, it's all top of mind for everybody now, right? Like we all know the goal. We're all working towards this together.
Exactly. If you don't do that, you're just doing best practices, which is fine, but it doesn't mean you're going to get them any business outcome that they want.
Yep.
I mean, I've had projects where maybe the real big boss is not really involved, and we do this 6-month, 9-month thing, and then it's done. We're going to show it to the big boss, and the big boss is like mad. Like this is what you've been doing for 9 months. This isn't going to achieve the outcome at all. But in fairness to the team, they weren't given an outcome. It was like, go find a web shop that is going to update the website. And it's like, well, nobody said why. And so they just ran off and did it. And it's the exact, even if you're working directly with the big boss the whole time, I can't think of a time when one of them just volunteered the business outcome they were shooting for.
Yeah.
You have to ask.
I mean, with that specifically, we had a client who was without mentioning names, they were one of the bigger note-taking apps that's out there, like for sales teams. And the CEO was in every meeting as we're going through the web project. And then we get to the end of the project, like, hey, here's the website. We're ready to go live. It's like, I don't like this design. It doesn't actually do X, Y, and Z for us. Like, you were in every conversation, like you blessed off on this. So it became a thing. But you got to people won't just give you that information up. Great. Anyways, that one was still.
Well, that raises a point that might as well throw in there, which is about progress metrics. So you've got a success metric that's pretty clear, but I hate that exact kind of story that you just shared. It's happened to me enough times that I like take steps to never have that happen. I want massive customer satisfaction. I joke like I don't build software, I build customer satisfaction. That's all I care about.
Yep.
And the way the sort of protective mechanism that I use on a project like that is to say like, okay, what can we measure along the way before the thing is live? What can we measure along the way that will indicate that we're on the right track? So it's kind of like the dashboard of a car or something, or, if you're trying to see like, okay, we're maintaining speed, we're going in the right direction. So we're probably going to end up where we're pointed, by a certain amount of time, let's say. So something like that might be, for your situation. And I haven't met anybody that does this, but I would, if the goal was something like the Home Depot example, or in your case, the end users or whatever the big boss's goal was, I get them involved. Like I have the client bring their customers and clients in, get someone from one of the big players or get a few representative power users or whatever. And every month show some of this to them, because if you don't, then you end up in these meetings where two you and the client are debating the color of the logo, or what color should the buttons be, or where should this be. And we're all imagining what the user is going to do. We're all imagining what the customer is going to do. It's like, why imagine it? Just get some. And then we don't have to have this 3-hour meeting where we're thinking through the position of a carousel or, an accordion. Should we use an accordion? Should they be, it's like, just show someone.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I would I would get feedback from the ultimate user, and it just derails. It just like short circuits any kind of debate about what the UI should be, that you're just like, oh, they hate this, or every single one is confused by this. So let's change it.
Right. So I guess let's assume probably an uncomfortable amount of our listeners are probably still doing hourly billing. So what is the fastest path for them to move away from it right now?
Probably productized service. Yeah. To just to start and maybe it's something the principal does. Maybe it's some kind of a one-off strategy call. If they have some real, if they're well known for some kind of horizontal specialization, like they're something to do with like Notion API. I'm just trying to think of something super random, but they wrote a book about, I don't know, like Webflow for SaaS. They're famous for something, and just start charging for like a one-off call or some kind of strategy workshop, a half-day thing. It's really basically all you have to do is write the sales page for it, and it's done, and you can start selling it. Or if there's something that the agency already does, at the beginning of most big projects, a lot of times there's some sort of discovery or road mapping or sort of strategic planning or brand thing that happens at the beginning. You could break off that thing that you do on pretty much every project and productize that. Say it's $5,000. We don't work on anything unless we do that first. Well, you're talking about transition. So if you're just dipping your toe in, just break that off and try and sell it. And once you do sell it, you're going to be like, wow, this is very different from the way we normally operate. Like, it almost doesn't make sense to track hours. It's more like track progress, and it really makes sense for the first time ever to do things that will make your team faster. It doesn't make sense to make your team faster. It makes no sense to make your team faster.
Right.
Hire better people. My whole epiphany about hourly billing came when I recognized that we were making the most money off our worst developer. So if I was going to hire more people, I would want to get a whole bunch of really bad developers and not train them and just have really good customer service or account service people that kept the customers happy as our bad developers slowly built things. And I couldn't look. I was like, no, that can't be right. Something's wrong here. Yeah. So if you do, once you first sell something that's not connected to your time, for me, it just triggered this new mechanism, this efficiency thing that I thought I always had, but I wasn't even scratching the surface of how quickly I could accomplish things for people once I had switched to a fixed price. Because it used to be, when I was on the clock, every hour I worked, I'd log it in my calendar and I just made $150, and then I made another $150.
Right.
This is great. And when I switched, every hour I work, I was like, I just lost $150. And then I work another hour, I just lost another $150. You'd be surprised how much more efficient you get in the second model. It is way more efficient than in the first model when you're paid to be slower.
Right. And so, it's a definite piece of like, it's incentive alignment, right?
Yeah.
Where like with hourly billing, we're incentivized to work slower. But as soon, even separate from value-based pricing, just having a project where you're doing like a flat fee for it, it's like now we are both incentivized for this to work. And so, it just makes, even from that perspective, right? It makes sense. Like if we're both aligned on what we're trying to do here for the direction, like that should be the best case scenario for us now.
Yeah. Here's the thing. And here's the thing that surprised me. The clients transform when they know that they're not on the clock. They know that how much it actually is going to cost. All the clients from hell, they just calm right down because they're not seeing this money fly out of their checking account every week, every month, whatever the invoicing schedule is.
Yeah.
And they're just like, oh, all of a sudden they're not as worried about deadlines. All of a sudden they're not worried about timesheets. All of a sudden they're like, hey, you get it. When it's done, it's done. There might be some time pressure because, the sooner they get the thing, the sooner they get their benefits. So there's opportunity cost, but yeah, they calm right down when they know, because they can feel it. They can feel that you're on the hook. And with them, you're sitting on the same side of the table.
Mm.
So it took me by surprise that when that happened, but it happened very first year, like first time I went solo, started doing these fixed prices. And I was like, wow, I like my clients before, but they are really relaxed now. They're not freaking out in meetings or anything.
Yeah, not nickel and diming everything you are working on, even if we agreed it was for the project and necessary.
Yeah.
Like, well, is it?
They stop micromanaging you.
Right. So I guess one of the last things I want to hit is like, it seems that time tracking is one of those critical components for this, because even if we're not billing hourly, it's like we still want to be able to see where our time is going so that we can improve, do all this. But time tracking is, I think, traditionally one of those things most agencies avoid because they worry they're going to micromanage their team, like all of these different things. Is there, I guess, as you shifted from hourly billing to something more like to project-based pricing and stuff,
right?
What was that transition like? What were you thinking about with even the time tracking component of this?
Right. Well, I didn't have employees. I never have had employees since I went solo.
Yeah.
And I kind of enjoyed tracking my time. I had it down to a science. I could do it without much effort. But after a while, it was just ridiculous. My effective hourly rate was like in the thousands. So it just made no point to do it from a profitability standpoint. Usually when I hear that someone's giving fixed prices and they're having their employees keep timesheets, it makes me suspicious that they're actually value pricing and not, time and materials, behind the scenes. Like they might be giving fixed prices, but it makes me feel like they probably haven't really made the mind shift the whole way. And it took me a while. It probably took me 18 months to really understand it in my bones. But I understand that if, it's like how, especially if everyone's working remotely and, there's a few layers of management, how do you know which team members are struggling? And I don't see, like from a theoretical standpoint, it doesn't make any sense to me to track their hours because it's the wrong thing. If you want to track something, track the customer satisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're like, I'm not sure which one of my employees needs help or whatever, it's like, well, check in on the customer. How's the project going? Are you happy with Bob's work? He's sort of new. And this isn't threatening to the client because they're not paying by the hour for Bob. So it's like, I just go around and I check in to see if there's any coaching I do for my clients, for my employees. And just find out if they're happy. And if they're not happy, then you need to talk to Bob. And, it's like, tracking the profitability. If for some reason someone is listening and they're like, this guy's crazy, we have to have our employees track our hours because how else will we know if we're profitable? It's like, well, that's what your profit and loss statement is for. You can see whether or not you're profitable. But I understand they're like, well, what if individual employees are slacking or need training or something? And I'm like, fine, have people track their hours for 3 months. Because tracking hours is a measurement and measurements are not free. So, and the more precise the measurement needs to be, the more expensive it is to do the measurement. This is across any space, science, anything. And if you really think that you need to have somebody's hours in order to measure something, first of all, decide what you're trying to measure. What decision are you trying to make based on this measurement? Once you know what decision you're trying to make based on the measurement, then you can decide how accurate the measurement needs to be, down to the second, down to the hour, down to the day, down to the month, whatever. Mm-hmm. So it probably doesn't need to be super specific. And then once you've made the decision, you're taking the measurement. We've got the data. Now we make the decision. You can stop measuring. You can stop measuring the board after you cut it. You don't have to keep measuring it.
Yeah.
So if someone listening is like, there's no way we could stop tracking time, I would say, well, why are you tracking time? What decision are you trying to make? And then once you make that decision, maybe you can stop. And then next year for 3 months, you can have them track their time. And, it doesn't need to be, I've never come across a situation where it needed to be constant.
Right. Yeah. So I think for me, the reason I guess I would be looking at it specifically would be just for the efficiencies to see where are we actually bleeding efficient. Like if we keep agreeing to do this in projects, but we're actually getting slower at it for whatever reasons, like that would be the way we identify it.
Yeah, I feel like that could be that feels like it could be a very coarse measurement. It doesn't need to be every individual.
Yeah. And this is one of the, I love, I use, even for my personal business, I'm using rise.io for time. Like you don't actually have to track your time. It just runs on your computer and it looks takes little screen grabs every so often. It looks for keywords and it's probably 90+% accurate at where I'm spending my time. And so now I don't even think about it. It's just logging everything for me.
Yeah. I mean, that's interesting, but it does indicate to me a fully value-based agency would not worry about utilization. They would worry about satisfaction. So it would be like, all right, here's what we need to get done. When you're done, you can go home. So it's not like, okay, now this person finished early. Because then if the employees aren't, if the employees are if the business benefits when the employees are more efficient and faster, but the employees don't benefit from being efficient or faster,
right? Then they're
not going to be, the incentive's not aligned. So if you really wanted to align the incentives, it would be, here's what we have to get done this week. And when you're done with it, you can go home. Yeah. And then everybody's in alignment. Right. I haven't seen many agencies doing that, but but the flip side is if you don't get the stuff done, you're working the weekend.
Risk reward. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's probably the best argument because if I know that I can finish this task, I can still do the best quality that I can, but I can finish it in 5 hours or I can take 10 hours and, it won't, like I'm still going to have to be here doing the work. Like I clock out at 5 p.m. on Friday. There's no reason for me to want to work faster. I'm going to make the same amount of money. So
exactly.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Jonathan, this is a good conversation. It's insightful. I got two more questions for you as we wrap up with the first being, what book do you recommend every agency owner should read?
If you want to dive into value-based pricing for projects, I would recommend How to Measure Anything by Douglas Hubbard. Doug Hubbard? Yeah, that's right. And it was mind-blowing to me how, the title, How to Measure Anything. You can measure anything if you're measuring it to make a decision. So once you know what the decision is, you can measure beauty, love, happiness, right? Whatever. And certainly customer satisfaction. Can you quantify it? That's a different thing, but you can measure it for the purposes of making a specific decision. So that book is mind blowing. So that's
awesome.
Just one. That's my one.
Yeah. I've never looked at that book. So now it is on my list. Cool. Last question is, where can people find you?
Just Google for the Ditching Hourly Guy. I'll pop up.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for joining.
Hey, my pleasure. Great questions. Thanks.
That's the show, everyone. You can leave a rating and review, or you can do something that benefits you. Click the link in the show notes to subscribe to Agency Forward on Substack. You'll get weekly content, resources, and links from around the internet to help you drive your agency forward.